back to Two Dudes Talking 80s. I'm John. That's my pal Lewis.
Hello.
I'm gonna make you laugh every time.
You'll
Um,
eventually get used to that.
I don't think I will. We're going to talk about something that is near and dear to our hearts and probably the hearts of pretty much anyone that grew up in the 80s is going to record stores. Yes, back in the 80s, you actually had to drive or bike or walk to a physical location and purchase a album or later on cassette, later on a CD and bring it home and listen to it. You couldn't just download it and have it instantly. So we had to work for it back in the day, didn't we?
Definitely. You'd have to wait for the release and you'd have to wait in line if you wanted to, very similar with the sort of concert tickets that we talked about last week. If it was a popular album, you have to wait in line to get it. And but it was fun, man. It was great going through and just having it all just tangible in there and looking at the album covers and the artwork. And it was something I wish people would nowadays would be able to understand what they missed out on.
Yeah, to me, it was always the experience of getting it home. When it was the album, the cover, was there going to be any inserts, reading the lyrical content. I spent a lot of time devouring that kind of stuff, who was in the credits. I was lucky enough to be on the credits in a photo in one album. Hyrax's Raging Violence actually had my picture in there in one of the photos and also had my name in the thank you. So it was kind of a cool experience for me to be part of that. But let's
A
talk about
stallion.
yeah, hey, back in the day. So let's talk about record stores. There's a lot of them back in the Bay Area growing up. What's the first when I say record stores to you in the 80s? What comes to your mind?
Tower Records immediately. I remember when it was the 80s and I was in my 85 Camaro Z28. It was traditional that I would go out. I'd cruise up and down the El Camino at the end of the night. I'd go and pick up a CD, go to Burger King, grab my bacon double cheeseburger, and head home. It was like my Saturday night routine.
I can't imagine you eating a bacon double cheeseburger. So Tower was one of my go-tos as well. One of the things that was great about Tower Records is they used to have a lot of in-store appearances. And I went there one time, and Vita Ford was there, and I didn't have any of her albums. I mean, I like some of her stuff, but they had a bunch of the promotional posters on the wall, and I asked one of the employees, I'm like, "Hey, bro, can you give me that?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And he took it down for me and I went and had her sign it. So I surprisingly still have that poster to this day. I don't know what shape it's in, but I have it. But yeah, one of my favorite experiences at Tower Records is meeting Queensryche. So they actually were there to do a in-store appearance for the Rage for Order album.
Okay.
So I was really excited about that. I'm a huge Queensryche fan. I have back in the day their EP, and I've always followed them. So they were doing a signing for Rage for Order, and I went to Tower Records with a couple friends, and we went down the row, and I don't remember who, but everyone was like, hi. They're signing 80 million things, so I don't really expect a lot of interaction. But they're signing, they're pleasant enough and everything. And I get to the end, and the last person in the row was Chris DeGarmo. And he looks at me, and the guitarist, he looks at me kind of strangely, and he stands up and he goes, "I want to shake your hand." I'm like, "Okay, that's great, but why?" And he explained to me. So when I got the first Queensryche EP, I read about it in Kerrang magazine from England, and they actually had released it on their own record label, 206 Records. I still have that to this day.
Wow.
Heard that, was immediately blown away. I think to going back to inserts, I think they had an insert back then for merchandise, and I sent away to Seattle to get a Queensryche T-shirt. I think it was a sleeveless shirt because that's what we all wore back in the 80s.
Not
And
midriff.
so Chris DeGarmo explained to me, he said they had only printed 100 of those shirts.
Wow.
He had never ever seen one of those shirts outside of Seattle, and he couldn't believe that he was in California and saw somebody wearing that shirt. So he wanted to shake my hand. I thought it was a very cool moment, and a great interaction with him. Great guy. But yeah, he was suitably impressed that I had been a fan for such a long period.
That's really, really cool. I didn't realize that they were from Seattle. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, they're from
Wow.
Records from Seattle. That's why the 206 records, 206 being the area code for Seattle.
Wow. That's really cool. No, that's very cool. My Tower Records experience with seeing a band in there was more for anybody that knew me in high school or even now. Ronnie James Dio has always been a huge one of my huge favorites. And I found out that he was going to be signing autographs there with his band when they were releasing Last in Line. So it's one of those things. I mean, I at that point I didn't have a turntable. I only had a little cassette boombox, so I bought the cassette and got in line to go, shake everybody's hand, and it was really cool. I mean, Claude Chanel was there and Vivian Campbell, which he didn't give me the impression of the most friendly guy. He didn't really give me very much the time of the day. And Appice and Bain and then Dio was the last one that was, well, he was the last in line. And I went over and I was like awestruck because it's just, oh my God, this is Dio. This is the guy that really just got me into metal and stuff. It's just incredible. And I shook his hand and he signed my cassette. And I couldn't think of anything else to sort of prolong the the amount of time that I was getting FaceTime with him. So I quickly pulled out my Velcro wallet and I said, "Will you sign this as well?" And he did. And I still have it here. I'm going to see if I can pull it out. I think it's over in that drawer. But and then again, I didn't really have anything else to say, and so I said, "All right, thank you." And the door was like right next to me, and I'm like, "I don't know how to get out of here." And he's like, "The door's right there." Way to make a good impression on Ronnie James Dio. And I walked out.
That
And
big
real quick,
exit sign wasn't enough, huh?
the glass door that has, a clear view to the parking lot. That wasn't enough. But and just to go back, I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but to what you were talking about earlier with Lita Ford, I remember that. And I wasn't into Lita Ford back then, but I remember being in the parking lot watching her sign autographs in the same spot that Ronnie James Dio had done, I don't know, maybe a few months before. So that's a trip. I didn't actually know that you were there and getting an autograph.
Yeah, I was, and she was really cool. I don't think anyone else was there from her band, but she was there. And another interesting one, it wasn't at Tower Records, but we'll talk about the second. We'll talk about Record Exchange for a bit. Those that knew the Bay Area, there were two, and there was actually a Record Exchange in Walnut Creek, if my memory is serving me correctly. And every week that they would, they put out a recording of what they were getting in for that week and list the new albums and things like that. And that was the first time I ever heard Accept. They had played Fast as a Shark on the beginning of their recording, which made me go out and buy that album. And I think it was a Gary Moore, was it either Quarters or Power or G-Force? And they played that, which made me go and buy that album as well. But Walnut Creek was far for us back in those days. We drive, and so that was hard to get there. But we did go there. A buddy of mine went and met Slayer, and I am not a Slayer fan. I respect them, but they've never been something I've been really into. But he wanted to go, so we went. And back to Queensryche, I'm wearing my Queensryche shirt. So I'm kind of standing in the back. I think everyone was there except I don't think Kerry King was there. I don't know why. But Jeff Hanneman was there, and Tom Araya and Dave Lombardo were all there. They were signing autographs and talking to people. And like I said, I'm not even a fan, so I'm just kind of standing in the back, hanging out. And Jeff Hanneman sees me, goes, "Hey, come here." And he starts waving me on. I'm like, "Me?" He goes, "Yeah, come here." And he goes, "Yeah, man, let me check that shirt out." He goes, "Dude, that's badass." He goes, "I love Queensryche." And I'm like, "Really?" Like, I thought everyone would be like, looking down on it because it was Queensryche. And he's like, "Dude, I love them. That's a badass shirt." And we started talking, and like everyone tries to get in the conversation now and talk about Queensryche. And I'm like, okay, I felt awkward even wearing this shirt. But so yeah, I had a nice interaction with Jeff Hanneman. We had some common ground, and he seemed like a really good guy. Rest in peace. But that was a fun one.
That's really, really awesome. Man, you have a way of having people sort of point you out of crowds, of whatever it is, in whatever situation. It always seems to be you.
I sometimes wish it wasn't. Trust me. So, but going back to the record exchange, like I said, that one was in Walnut Creek. Oh, and by the way, when I think it was either Accept or Gary Moore. I didn't understand long distance charges back then, and of course, kids today wouldn't understand that at all. But I'm like, okay, it's the same area code. We're paying the same amount of money. And I think I called it so many times to hear the beginning of that so I could hear Accept or Gary Moore over and over. My parents were very upset by like an additional $30 on the phone bill that I had charged up calling so I could hear that recording over and over. So, yeah, whoops. Again, things that people don't understand in this day and age, but the struggle was real.
That's really cool. The only record exchange that I am familiar, well, two, and that was the original one that I remember in San Mateo, and going in there. I think you introduced me to that one, going in there a few times, and then when it moved to Burlingame, and I frequent that as well. I remember going in there, actually the one in Burlingame, and picking up the first Vinnie Moore CD, and totally into that. Still think it's a fabulous CD. But yeah, no, that was cool. And George, the owner, was always a super friendly guy to chat with, and yeah, good stuff. Definitely good stuff.
Yeah, I used to go there all the time because he would save stuff for me. Like, he had this promotional album that was supposed to be for, I think it was for radio only, for one of the Europe albums, and it was actually a two-album recording. One that had the official recording of Out of This World, and the second album actually had like snippets of it that they could use for radio edits or radio commercials, and had an interview with the band and everything. It was a very collectible item, and so he made sure to say that for me. He knew what a huge Europe fan I was, so of course he had to keep it for me, which I always appreciated. Those little personal touches where they knew what you liked, and hey, put this away, or the other workers like Jim or Kevin, they'd always like find stuff. Hey, we think you're into this. You want this, and give me the option or the first opportunity to purchase it was.
That's really cool. I remember, and I'm trying to remember the name of the music store. I want to say it's Music Land, but that doesn't sound right. It was in Hillsdale Mall.
Rainbow Records.
Not sure if the one I'm referring to is Rainbow Records. It might have been,
They
but I
had a
remember
Rainbow Records. I know that.
they definitely did. They definitely did. I remember that as well. But my buddy Dennis Gast used to work at this record store in the Hillsdale Mall, and I remember when CDs were first coming out, and I really wanted to get Rainbow. I wanted to get some of the early Rainbow stuff on CDs. And again, it's sort of going back to what how different things are now. I want a Rainbow CD, pretty much anything. I just go online. I'll find it somewhere, and I'll be able to buy it. There, it's like, oh yeah, we got a special order that for you, and you've got to wait like 6 weeks for that to come in. And I could do that for you if you want. And just a different world.
Well, it's crazy to me as I remember one of your past relationships, which we won't get too into. Dun, 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 dun. Um, she was really into ABBA. And I remember it being at the time, this was before ABBA had kind of come back into the, public eye again through, Muriel's Wedding and things like that. And you had to special order those, and they had to be imported from out of the country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I found him at the record exchange. As a matter of fact, I think I traded in this double Queen CD that I had, which apparently is very rare now and worth a lot of money.
Whoops.
But
I don't
I
think you
traded it
want
in
to.
for.
I don't think you want to tell anybody that you turned in a Queen CD to get ABBA.
Well, it was like a live CD, and it wasn't. I've never been one for live albums. As a rule, there's a few of them that's the exception, like Peter Frampton and stuff. But it's very, very few that I'll really like a live album, and that was sort of fell into that bucket. It's like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, I've got the studio versions of the songs, and it doesn't really do it for me. So yeah. But in retrospect, I wish I'd hung on to it.
Very cool. It's strange. Yeah, like you said, it's strange. I remember, my buddy from Greece would send me stuff that I'd never see here, and vice versa. There was things that he couldn't find in Greece that I'd send from, the United States to him, and just stuff that he couldn't find. And now, like you said, I can go on Amazon and pretty much order anything I want.
Yeah, yeah, very different world. John, I don't know if you remember this place in Burlingame. It was a small record store called Disc and That.
I was gonna bring that one up. Yes, I absolutely love disc in that.
Excellent. Well, I'll let you run with it, and then I'll make my little commentary at the end.
Oh no, I mean, that was the place where you'd go. I don't think I bought much music there, but I remember them having like a ton of the coolest posters. So I would always go there for posters. For me, that was a big thing and go find. I remember finding like a super cool UFO poster there, and I forgot what year they went under, but that was my thing. Is I'd always go there to check out their poster selection. I don't remember buying too much music, but I think between posters and stickers, they had everything.
Yeah. I used to work very close by there as a telemarketer, which turned out to be a big scam thing, but that's a different story for a different time. But it was literally maybe a block away from Disconnect, and my friend on his lunch break he would go and smoke, and he would go over to Disconnect. And he came back one day and he's all like, "Oh yeah, this album, man, I've got this new album, and I mean, I don't think you'll be into it. It's too heavy, but it's like really good stuff." And it turned out to be Metallica's "Kill 'Em All," and it was just when they were starting to cut their teeth, and um, yeah, he's right. I mean, I really wasn't into it at the time, but as they progressed, they became, a very influential band for me.
That's funny because I actually bought. I remember, the buying the first Metallica Kill 'Em All album at the Record Exchange, and they had ordered a certain amount of copies, and I had asked them to save it. And I had heard the demo, but it was like one of those 20th generation demos, so you couldn't hear it that well. And so I wanted to hear what the album sounded like, and I bought it and I put it on, and I'm like, this is not doing it for me. Like I really didn't care for it at all. And I remember going somewhere with my parents, and I remember we were in San Francisco, and in my head, I was hearing this song, and I'm like, God, what song is it? I know it's a song that I have, but I couldn't figure it out. And I eventually discovered it was Seek and Destroy by Metallica. So I went back and I pulled out Kill 'Em All again. I said, maybe I better give this a second chance here, and started listening to, Seek and Destroy, and started playing that. Oh, this is a good and then I started rediscovering the whole album. So that was my Metallica experience. I don't think most people didn't like it at first. They're gonna say they did, liars. But I think it kind of all grew on us. So that was and I also remember getting the first Exodus album and Megadeth, all at the Record Exchange.
Nice, nice. Yeah, Metallica and that the Kill 'Em All, and it's still not one of my favorite albums. I really got into them when Ride the Lightning came out. That was sort of the one that really lit my fire. But yeah, and what was the other records from? Maybe that was Rainbow Records in the Hillsdale Mall where it had the slide that went down into it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think that was Rainbow Records.
Okay, all right.
I didn't. That's funny because I remember the slide now that you mentioned it, and yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember that from the time. So you always slid down.
I don't remember ever. I remember seeing it and I remember thinking, oh, that's really cool. I don't remember actually going down it. I certainly don't remember ever buying anything from the store. But yeah, the distinctive part was definitely that slide.
And then, of course, you'd always go to the record stores to get, and ask them for whatever freebies they had. Like I remember Tower Records, they gave me this like sampler cassette It was actually I don't remember if it was a cassette or a CD. I want to say it was a cassette, and it was a tour that was taking place. And it was artists, I think, on Epic, and it had Metal Church on it, Judas Priest, Motorhead, because I think they were all on tour together. And then it had an unreleased at the time Europe song. I really wanted it for that Europe song. But so I went there and asked, "Hey, do you guys have this?" You know, me being me, I always felt guilty, so I'd always be buying something. And hey, what you got this? And the other thing I remember is this really weird, God, VHS tape for Flotsam and Jetsam. It was, oh God, I think it was a video for Wading Through the Darkness. I'd have to double check, but you were supposed to go physically onto your TV and I think turn the contrast or something like that while watching the video, and it was supposed to show you ghostly images during the video. So, yeah, I mean, that was how the 80s worked. So we had to go up and be turning the knobs to find out what the Flotsam and Jetsam video looked like. But thanks to Tower Records, I was able to secure that, and and then of course you'd have to get the stickers. You know,
Oh,
the
big
radio
time.
station stickers. The big one was the KOME stickers. Oh, he's gonna find something. So we'd get the KOME stickers, and yep, Lewis has got his camel. Um, but you get the KOME stickers and you cut them up. And I remember they'd make different, names out of it. I remember Coke was a big one, and I'm sure it wasn't promoting the soft drink. And I did one for UFO, and that's what we did to amuse ourselves back in the days. I think I worked hours on that UFO sticker.
I know that with the KOME ones,
KMEL.
I'm sorry, KMEL, that when I was it in Burrell? It's probably high school. They would cut them out and make the camels hump, and that was like the big thing. They'd have another camel, then they'd stick it on this sticker, and it was like, look, there's camels humping. Yee. So I don't know. It was the thing that a lot of people did.
That must have been Aragon because I don't remember that at all. Once again, we were Hillsdale classy, so that was it. Um, Trying to think what else, I enjoyed about those days. It seemed like all the smaller record stores always had the bootleg person, like the bootleg contact. I remember, sadly, I only think I went there once or twice, but the Record Vault in San Francisco was another one of those places that was just amazing. They had such a huge selection of heavy metal stuff. And they had a lot of, like live tapes you could purchase, and, t-shirts, and I don't know if there were many videos. And then, George had a friend at Record Exchange that did a lot of the, he'd record the King Biscuit Flower Hours and all those
Oh yeah.
yeah. So we'd have all these different bootlegs, and it kills me because one of the bootlegs I got from him was Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, and they started out the concert with Over the Mountain, and I cannot find that recording anywhere, and I've looked for it
Oh.
online and everything else. It was like crystal clear, and I keep hoping some year Ozzy will release that stuff. Um, but I really love that recording. It was like one of the best live recordings I ever heard of Randy Rhoads, and I wish I still had that tape. I think I got eaten. It's one of those bootlegs that went goodbye, and in the tape deck and gone.
Yeah, I had a few that were eaten up by my tape deck as well.
Yeah, those records, the smaller record stores, they always had that. They always had that. The one guy that did all the bootlegs, and you'd find a bunch of stuff. I found another guy there and bought some like Law's Rocket Live stuff that he recorded, and some Metallica Live, and yeah, I miss those days. It was always nice to go there. It was quite the experience to go in and see what you could discover. The downfall of that is, many times you'd go there and you'd see an album cover and you'd be like, I've got to have this. This looks so cool based upon the album cover. Flip it over. Oh man, those guys look really great. Those guys look cool. I want this. And you get home and you'd be like, oh God, this is awful.
What good marketing will do for a band.
Yeah, I remember getting a 45. Remember 45s?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I got a 45 of a band called Demon, and it looked really like it'd be a little bit more extreme than what you'd expect. And then I listened to the recording, and it didn't match the imagery at all, and it was quite disappointing.
Christian rock.
And not even that. It was like kind of like basic hard rock. It wasn't bad, but again, with the imagery that you saw, I was looking for something at the time more extreme, and it wasn't. It certainly wasn't that.
Yeah, yeah. That's going back to something that you were talking about earlier. I had no idea that record stores gave anything promotional like that other than the stickers. I remember always going in there and asking for stickers, but like, tapes that had compilations of, I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't even remember how I first heard about it. I think the Flotsam and Jetsam. I remember seeing like an ad in one of the magazines or something where it was promoting their new album, and it said, "Oh, ask your local record store if they have this promotional product." And I said, "Well, it's not going to hurt to ask." And I don't think anyone was really asking for Flotsam and Jetsam back in San Mateo in those days, so I was lucky enough to get it.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool.
All right. Well, I think I don't want this to run long like the last one, so I think we better cut it off here. Anything you want to add?
Um, I want to see if I can grab my Dio Velcro thing to show. If it's here handy, great. If not, then that's great too. Oh, here it is. My
Rick,
Velcro. My
open that Velcro. Come on, let's hear it.
It was very
It's
There
seen
it
better
is.
days.
Here it is.
Signed by Ronnie James Dio. If anybody wants it, start putting in a bidding price now. What's the minimum you'll request?
I will not part with it.
In that case. All right. Well, Lou, thank you as always for doing this with me, brother. It's always a great time to talk and relive some of these memories, and we'll figure out what we're going to do next.
All right, my man. Thank you as well. This is great fun.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.